Martha Wangari, the
Thank
MP for Gilgil. Good morning.
Good morning, Eric. And happy to be in Spice FM, the famous studio. I now can put the faces to the names.
Very good.
And I want to actually say you're one of the best morning shows that are in our radio waves, considering what other stations air. It's usually a breath of fresh air to listen to you every morning. So I'm happy to be here. It's my inaugural. I've never been, so it's my first time.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
And we're
It will not
delighted
be
to
your
have you.
last.
Yeah, it won't be my last. So please, let me say hi to my people. You know it is a crime.
No, please.
If I don't do that.
No, by all
Don't do a
means.
shout
By all
out.
means.
Send salams.
By all means.
First of all, to my people from Gilgil, from every corner. I know they listen a lot to Spice FM. And I also want to give condolences to Juja people for the loss of their MP. And of course, this parliament has been very hit by many deaths. I think this is the sixth one dying in office. And I think it brings a whole new conversation about how we are treating our health issues, especially this one for Honorable Akape, because it was cancer related.
Yeah, I see that's a conversation that you was happening in Parliament yesterday.
Yes, we were eulogizing him.
Eulogizing the man and saying, look, we need to mainstream this issue of cancer.
Yeah.
This is not the first time the
Nope.
National Assembly is doing this. This is not the first time that it's saying this, but...
I agree with you because we have actually a bill pending in Parliament for cancer. First of all, it was a motion to actually be declared a national disaster. By doing that, it can be just a semantics issue to say national disaster. But when you do that and declare it a national disaster, what it means is that it's given attention that it deserves. But I think our problem, Eric, is not even the laws in this country. I've said that in KTN, I've said it elsewhere. And I said it yesterday as we eulogized Waitito. Because I say, we have the laws. 1989 Abuja Declaration, not less than 15% of any budget to go to health. And I said it yesterday. If we can implement that, just that, for the county governors, we would be very far.
So why can't we?
I would say, I'm not a governor, but I would not speak for any governor. But I don't think there is any county government that has been able to do that. And I don't think we'll be able to criminalize it. I would say it's about goodwill. If you're sitting governor, prioritize it. And I think that's all it takes. And for the county assemblies to also prioritize it, because health has basically been devolved. And even now, as we speak of more resources, we are taking more resources to the counties, and yet the oversight is not clear. So some of the issues that have lacunas.
Yeah, so those two issues actually. So there's a declaration that says, every country shall increase its budgetary allocation to health. Another similar declaration, every country shall increase its budgetary allocation to agriculture. Those have been devolved.
Yes.
So now we are passing the back to the counties and saying, why aren't counties implementing this?
Because they are the ones supposed to do that. Because if you go to Nakuru, where I come from, I would tell you, give it credit to where it's due. Because if you walked to PGH 5 years ago, even to deliver a child, it was crazy. It was messy. And it was not clean.
Please
there was no attendance.
PGH, not all our listeners know
PGH,
what
sorry.
PGH is.
Provincial General Hospital.
Thank you.
It is used not only by Nakuru, it's used by Eldoret, by Kericho, by the neighborhood of the county. And I'll tell you, it has improved to a point. Right now, you'll walk into PGH and get a CS done. You'll walk into Gilgil Health Center, where I come from, and get a theater to carry out our CS. It never used to happen. So we have made steps. We have diagnostic center in Nakuru. We have Mamangina maternity wing. So different counties have handled it differently. But I would laud my governor for the far he has done, because it was messy. Right now, if you go to PG, it's like a private hospital. You walk in, it's clean, the stench is not there, you're attended to, and you'll not hear the cases of negligence like we used to hear previously. So some have made progress. I can't speak for other counties, but I would say, like in my place, we used to go to Naivasha to get a child delivered through CS. If you're going there and it's a case of emergency, people die on the way.
Yeah.
Right now, we are having a CS being done in Gilgil. There's a theater for that. So I think there are people who have made strides. And I know Jerusalem was not built in a day, but it is possible. And I say that knowing very well of the resources we take to the counties. It is doable. All it needs is commitment and goodwill of the government.
Are you saying that the resources that the counties get are adequate for the demands of the tasks that have been put before them in health matters?
I wouldn't say adequate. You know why? PFM Act gives a 30% to go to development, minimum. If you look at the COB, the Control of Budget report, not any county is doing 30%. We are not still doing that. And I say that like Nakuru, over 80% goes to recurrent, which is a crisis. If you go to Nyeri, the former provincial headquarters, it goes to recurrent. Until we're able to sort that out, you cannot say there are enough resources.
Are you saying that it is absolutely necessary to spend that amount on recurrent?
I want to be honest because, when you talk about laying off people right now, it's a hot potato.
From a political
I would not.
perspective, of
It's a
course.
political issue, and it's also a livelihood issues because we are dealing with unemployment. Then the ones who are there, you want to lay them out, to lay them off. And I say that because I was in the Senate last Parliament. Transitional Authority tried to actually recommend.
Rationalization.
You remember what happened? Rationalization. That's what they called it. But basically, it was laying off and retiring those who want to retire. It's not an easy thing to do. And I would say that from a political view, because in any case, a governor is a politician.
Yep.
But it
surely-
needs someone who is brave enough to do it.
But at the same time, governors came in, especially when they were coming in for the first time in 2013.
Yeah.
And the one thing that they wanted to do is reward their political people by hiring more people.
By the way, Eric, that is not a Kenyan problem. And I think even recently with the transition you saw in the US, which is a much older democracy, that's the first thing you do. Because you also need people who can work with you. But you have to do it within the law. Yeah?
That's okay. You see, there's coming in with your advisors and coming in with your CECs.
Yes.
But I was also now saying that we are going to hire more people in various cadres.
By the way, if I remember, so many of them were thrown out, even from the Senate level, because it was a petition. And it was rationalized by law. So it was said you can hire an ward admin, you can hire a CEC.
Up to this
The
point.
offices are actually very lean today because a governor will have an advisor, maybe two, and then have a county attorney. So that you're able to rationalize. Because if you leave it open, then everyone will come with their person trying to, get a position in the county.
But, even as you say this, I am thinking, what sort of public participation have the counties and the constituencies done to get people to understand that laying off is not it's not an insult, it's not a negative thing, it's not picking on you, it isn't, because you're fighting a narrative that has been there for the longest time.
Yeah.
It's like these jobs have to come to an end at some point, for heaven's sake.
Yep.
Okay? But we have helped maintain the narrative that when you're laid off, something bad has happened.
Oh, yes.
Someone doesn't like you. Someone doesn't want you.
You are now jobless.
Yes.
But is that not true? When you're laid off, you
No.
It's not a good feeling.
No.
No,
a
it's
good
not.
feeling?
And I
No.
would not lie to you. I'll not tell you there is public participation that will support laying off of people. It will never happen. In fact, it will just need someone to be hard enough and just face it. But in
Actually,
terms of public participation, they will deny. They will not want it.
I'm going somewhere with this. Thought as to what you do after retirement.
Yeah.
There is that discussion. When it's left hanging, it's like you had this job, then we're now sending you to oblivion. Okay?
Yeah.
And no one will accept it. Say, oblivion to do what exactly?
Recently we had, I sit in the defense committee, we vet ambassadors. And one of the issues that we had was the president appointing people who are over 60 years old.
Yep.
And the question was, you've retired. I mean, go home. For heaven's sake, go home. And even themselves, they said, we are still useful. Where do you want us to go?
Home.
Oh, they don't want to. So I think it's a culture issue. And there's no public participation done in any constituency or county that will support it. In fact, they want more. Because they say at least we have a stake in this government because we have 2-3 people from our village employed by the county. By the way, regardless of what they are doing in the county, that is the sad bit.
Yeah.
So it does not even need a law. It just needs someone to be courageous enough
bold.
and do it. And I don't see it happening unless governors are appointed. It won't work because it's a political decision.
And if you want votes, then you must follow the
Oh,
will of
yes.
the people.
Yeah.
Let's talk about CDF here in line with the BBI. So
Yeah.
first of all, there's all this talk, and we were discussing this earlier. It appears that now we're heading towards a referendum, number one.
For sure.
This is clear. You guys in the National Assembly will do what the county assemblies have done.
Actually, whatever we do, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't
It
matter.
will still go
even.
to a referendum.
It's going to a referendum. And at the referendum now, during the campaigns for referendum, what is emerging as the new communication for the referendum is about the money.
Yeah.
The money part. how much money is coming to kwa mfuko ya mwananchi wa kawaida. This whole story of we've been fighting.
Shilingi.
It's how much money is coming to the mwananchi.
Yeah.
Now we've heard the president saying, CDF bursary. So the bursary component of CDF is now going to increase, especially for those who are in populated constituencies.
Yeah.
Number one. Number two, we've been told now there's going to be a ward development fund. That
Yes.
means that every MCA will have around 300 million shillings to,
around.
come
Just
and play
an
around
MCA.
with. MCA.
So if an MCA is getting 300 million, think of what a Mheshimiwa MP will have.
First of all, I don't know where 300 million has come from, just to be sure, because BBI speaks about 5% of the revenue, and that is where the catch is.
It is of the revenue, own source revenue.
Of the county. The revenue. The revenue. But generally, let me comment on BBI. First of all, and I have said it on KTN today, I think the opponents of BBI kind of, what we call in Kikuyu land, jumped before the drum. Yeah, before the tune. And I say that because it's a process that is enumerated in the constitution. And they were almost certain that the counties won't pass it. So yesterday was a shocker for everybody because the counties actually passed it overwhelmingly. In fact, it does not matter what any other county does now. It's, the numbers are good. It's like stop the count.
Yeah.
But the reason you say it's a poison chalice, and what I've seen people say, the MCAs were bribed. Of course, there were incentives. It's a political process. You will dangle what you have, and that's what the president did.
So a bribe.
Not bribe. And I say that because as a member of parliament who benefited from a car grant myself, I cannot oppose it for MCAs. I spoke about it in 2016 in the legislative summit. I was a senator then, and it was passed. So it was only that it was difficult to implement for one reason or another. And what has happened is that maybe it's just the right time to redeem the bonga points, I would say, for the MCA. It's the right time, basically. But what happened yesterday, in fact, the president and the proponents of BBI know that the most important person in this process was the MCA. Forget the MP and the senator. CC will be a conduit or whatever it will be. But the MCA, if it did not garner 24 counties, then it dies. So they had to invest whatever it takes. And that's why you see there's something everyone is supporting in BBI. You see the MCA will be excited about the World Development Fund. Why? Because this thing of elitists and saying legislation and representation is in Nairobi. So to tell you, what matters in the village where I come from is, has this road been fixed? Has an MCA built a dispensary? Has this bridge been fixed? Those are the tangibles that an MCA...
There's this other possibility that, yes, county assemblies are going to pass this thing. 98% will say yes. But the people have the final say at the referendum.
Agree.
Is there a likelihood, do you see, of the people saying, you don't represent us? We actually are going to say no.
By the way, this process, people must understand. Now, when it comes to the communication to Parliament, first of all, it can be debated concurrently to the two houses. But regardless of what we decide as a house, which I don't see having a lot of issues, Article 255 has talked about the issues that go to a referendum, whether or not. So the issue of Bill of Rights, which has been touched by BBI, the issue of judiciary, the appointment of the ombudsman,
Structure.
all those will go to a referendum. So we are looking at a referendum right now. A referendum can go either way, by the way. But the reason this one may not have proper opposition is because no one is leading the no team. It could have a chance of going no, but I can tell you for free. These people, our people listen to their political leaders. That's why you hear, ametusomea, we don't need to read. Because people are busy in their things. In fact, right when I was coming, I came in a taxi. And the guy who drove me in an Uber was telling me, he didn't know even who I was. And he was telling me, tuko na shida. Tumesomewa na hii kitu, wamepitisha wao, they are discussing amongst themselves and they have passed. But I told him, but they're your representatives. You driving this Uber, when will you have time to sit down and read BBI? So there is some degree where members of parliament, members of county assemblies will represent their people. And that's one of our duties. So going forward, the reason it may not have opposition, if you remember 2005, the banana orange referendum.
Yep.
We actually demonized innocent fruit that time. But, you know, there was a proper structured no campaign.
Yep.
Right now, the Linda Katiba, which Honorable Martha Karua is part of, Kibvuda was there. Now he's not. You know, he's in, and the next day he's not. He said, my people have told me I have to support it.
Yep.
So, if one of these people, and I would single out the deputy president, if he were to lead a no campaign, then you would say you have a serious opposition, or someone a high political figure to lead the no campaign, which I don't see happening. Which I don't see happening.
Even in
so what will
2010,
happen?
the North team had a leader.
They had a leader.
Why don't you see it happening? Because what we in the media have helped present to the public is that an opposition leader has been made in the form of our deputy president.
And I'm asking, someone draw a clip where he actually expressly tells people to vote no for BBI.
He has actually said he has no problem with BBI.
Oh, yeah, he has. Because, first of all, the issues he raised in Bomas, too, if you remember, in Bomas, were most of them incorporated. The issue of Ombudsman had an issue. The issue of Nairobi County as a county had an issue. In fact, the first draft, it had recommended that it be taken to the executive again. It was removed. So many issues have been ironed. And that's why I'm saying it's been a process. Even those of us who gave views, and I would say because I went to a meeting called by the president in Naivasha, Great Rift, I was there. We raised issues because like these 70 constituencies that are now here, that time there were just seats floating in the air. And they would say, Gilgil will have to MPs. So we were like, who will be starting where? That is where the issue of delimitation of boundaries came in, that let us demarcate it properly so that there's no overlap and there's accountability. So these issues, the reason why it will not go to no mostly, what will have maybe is apathy. People need to be motivated to come out and vote. But in terms of the process, first of all, a referendum is assured as it is right now, regardless of what Bunge does. But in terms of the campaigns, I am sure if what I've seen from the deputy president, I don't think he has an issue enough to go to a no campaign.
Martha Karua, don't you think she's strong enough to lead a no campaign?
She is actually. She is. I don't doubt her capacity. But the fact that maybe she's not in a political position right now also has an implication.
What will she
by
be
all
fighting?
means, because the people also respect positions. That,
Mheshimiwa, what will she be fighting against? For instance, since we're speaking hypothetically here, what will she be fighting against if she leads a no campaign?
I do not speak for her, but what I've read from the newspapers, I've seen her say it will be a costly affair to say even 35% can go to the counties. And he says the next administration will have a problem raising that money. And I think he has she raises a valid point. But my point is, functions follow, money should follow functions. We devolved health, and yet we are still retaining a lot of money in the Ministry of Health. That's why you'll hear the COVID-19 haste, they're in Nairobi. And you cannot say we criminalize county governments, which is the closest government people have gotten since independence. Because some governors did something in corruption. We have a lot of corruption going on, even in the national level. So in terms of getting the money, the problem is not even the money. It is proper utilization and proper accountability. If we just used this money properly, it is enough to go around.
Let me just play her a clip. She was on KTN last night, and she was asked, so what are your issues?
Last night. Oh, Martha Karua.
Yes.
Oh, not me.
What are your issues, Martha Karua, against the BBI? And what do you think about the vote that has now taken place in the county assemblies? And this is what she said.
There's been bribery and coercion. That's what I've said. If the sweeteners were so good, why did the MCAs have to be promised the 2 million in order to pass BBI? And it was quid pro quo. That's what the president promised at Sagana so as to convince the Mount Kenya and ultimately the MCAs. And I would like to repeat, the MCAs are obviously impressed because of the gift they have received, because of the coercion, because of the intimidation. That doesn't mean the people in the counties are impressed. Other than Makueni, I'm hearing Professor Governor Kibwana say there was some semblance of public participation. Almost all the other counties, there was nil public participation, not even pretense. So it is the MCAs of Kirinyaga who are impressed, not the people of Kirinyaga. But before the referendum comes, we shall have to be heard as the people who object to the referendum, and we hope to break it down to the people, to show them that BBI really is a fraud. it is not telling the truth. If 35% was to go to the counties, it would have been budgeted in the 2021-2022 budget, because when they started the process last year, the referendum bill had already been published. What better way of showing goodwill and showing commitment than...
So,
yeah, I
show
hear
that
her.
goodwill now.
By
we
the
have
way,
a budget coming up.
She's right on one thing. Democracy dictates that the majority have their way, the minority have their say. So even the dissenting voices should be heard. In fact, even her, she should be heard, as she rightly puts it. And I think in terms of commitment, first of all, this is not law yet. Of course, nothing prevents any government from doing it. But it is not right to just leave it as a prerogative of the serving president. And I think for me, why it's attractive, that is the reason. Because even as it is today, we have actually put it as a minimum, as a low ceiling. We said at least 15%. So it means as a president or executive, I choose what I can send, but when it is in law, and that is why it's good to embed these things, it is you can be able to follow up better when it is in law. And I agree in devolving money after the functions. The Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Devolution, the Ministry of Health must have a very lean, just policy to address. Take these monies to the counties, and it is going to have an effect. And that revenue we're talking about, every ward, every 55 wards in every one of the 55 wards in Nakuru will be assured of, say, 20 or 30 million per year. What that means, it means the roads you want to address, the dispensaries you want to equip, you'll have a direct amount dedicated like the way we have CDF. And the next step, I want to say, BBI is not the end of it. Most of these laws will be enacted by Parliament to operationalize even this when it goes through. Some within 6 months, some within 1 year, according to the schedule in the BBI. And the moment it becomes law, Parliament sets rolling. And I think the laws are already being drafted so that it won't waste a lot of time. We'll be doing our duty as the people's representative. The issue of representation, Eric, I represent 90,000 voters. I have 110 public schools. I have one colleague of mine in this Nairobi who has 9 schools or 10 schools. What that means, they have put desks, they have put infrastructure.
And the population of how many for those 10 schools?
Yeah, they're high. I don't deny. But in terms of infrastructure, you pump so much money in one school. That's why you're able to do storage. We are not able to do that. We are dealing with basic infrastructure. We are grossly underrepresented in terms of our numbers. And I put that because between Gilgil and Naivasha, which was our mother constituency, has 145,000, Naivasha. I have 90,000. Between us, we already have 230 voters. And I'm not talking population. Gilgil has, the last census has 185,000 people. There's Lamu County has what? In terms of numbers, almost like the whole county is the size of my constituency. And the same funding goes to Lamu constituency, Lamu West and Lamu East. So the gross misrepresentation is a serious issue. I would not mind that between Naivasha and Gilgil, we get another constituency. So that's one reason I'm supporting it, because Nakuru gets 5 extra constituencies. And our numbers deserve to be heard in Parliament, and not just in CDF. We cannot reduce this in CDF. We also consider the vote in Parliament of representation. That I have 1 vote, someone with 20,000 also has 1 vote. Someone with 160 like Roiro has 1 vote. Whereas they should have 3 votes in critical matters, including budget.
Especially taxation.
Yes.
I think you'll need to explain that to us very well and slowly so that we get to understand. Before we go into the CDF, where it's just basically direct money coming to our constituency, that issue of representation. At what cost should we have representation? I mean, so I am one person. I'm represented alongside 3 others by 1 MP, and we have another person there represented alongside 10 others by 1 MP. Who is more represented than the other, and why, and what's the cost of doing that? Yes. So first of all, the way it's set up right now with the BBI is that Nakuru County is set to get how many extra? 5 extra constituencies. And you're hoping that at least between yourselves and Naivasha, you're going to have another constituency created.
Because I can tell you, Eric, even in terms of coverage, first of all, I have 1,348 square kilometers to cover. Forget now the population. From Delamere, where you get to Delamere, all the way to the dual carriage in Nakuru is Gilgil, both sides. So in terms of of course we do. And Naivasha has 8 wards. I have 5 wards. So between us, we should be able to get a constituency. And that will be lobbying very hard when that time comes. And also through public participation. And I say that because initially, Gilgil was in Naivasha. The development and all the MPs used to come from Naivasha because of the population. Gilgil was kind of left out. So in terms of development, we are now in our second term, even in parliament. There was one MP and then myself. We are doing basic things that should have been done before. Roads and toilets and classrooms, for schools. We are dealing with basic infrastructure. If that had happened earlier, I can tell you we would at least be at par with many of the constituencies that you're talking about.
Are you dealing with this basic because they're not enough, according to you, not enough in terms of representation? Or then in terms of how much priority was given to these development issues?
I think representation and development is actually intertwined. You know why? Because even in parliament, there comes an issue that touches Nakuru. Even if we vote, we are just 11. So we'll only have 11 votes. But our numbers, we are over 2 million in terms of population. You cannot equate us with, say, Lamu or Isiolo, which is tiny and has as many...
In terms of population?
Yes, in terms of population. And they have, I would say Garissa has 6 MPs. And in terms of population, one maybe has 30,000, 40,000.
How many square
it's not
kilometers
fair.
for those 40,000?
I don't know the square kilometers,
But
but the people is the main issue. In fact, I have a ward bigger than a constituency somewhere in Murang'a. In terms of size, I cannot legislate on size. Let us talk population because we don't represent the land. We represent the people.
But you're the one who's brought in the land issue.
No, I was
here,
just giving you. And that's why even the county, when you're dividing the money, it counts. The mass and the development index, the poverty index, all those parameters are considered. But on this one, in representation, our problem is the population. By the way, big time. And I have demonstrated it. In Kiambu, in Kakamega, in Nakuru, the numbers are high and we get small voice in the National Assembly where decisions are made in terms of budget. And now to add on to CDF and resources coming to a constituency.
Mheshimiwa, let's look at this in totality now. Let's look at the numbers, right? Currently, it's kind of difficult to even meet the requirements today for government, for representation in the House. So now we are looking at increasing these numbers by at least 70, right? Just in the National Assembly, at least in National Assembly. One of the issues that opponents of the BBI have talked about is that we're going to be able to afford this. Nitty gritty, can you afford to buy more for your house? And the issue is that right now, there's no money. Actually, there is no additional revenue that's coming in.
Actually, it's gone
currently
down.
It's even gone down
with COVID.
So you have a coat that you're trying to wrap around the front as it is. Then now you want to add more body.
But I want to tell you,
how are you going to make this happen?
I want to say, Parliament is demonized mostly because we are the ones in the public eye. But the devil of spending in government is not in Parliament. It is in the civil service. In fact, more than 58% of our budget goes to the civil service. Parliament gets less than 3%. I think it's actually 1.5%. So in terms of being demonized for the numbers, Parliament gets the brunt. But the devil is in the civil service. And that is at the national level and at the county level. But these numbers
to you as Parliament is not in any of that. You appear like you're part of the executive. That's how we see
That's a different issue now, actually, of separation of powers. And I agree with you, especially this Parliament.
Yes.
I was in last Parliament. We are an arm of government. It's supposed to be independent.
Yes.
But
your oversight
we have
is what
fought.
We find
in fact,
wanting.
this Parliament, I was in 11th Parliament. It was not as this one. I would agree with you in terms of capture. I would agree with you totally because even some of the decisions we make, some are, you'll get called, people will get called and they're overruled. We had issues with the Finance Act, if you remember, in 2018, and I vehemently opposed it, but it was actually, I would say, forced through and became an act, but we opposed it on record. So I think this separation is what has killed our role as Parliament, but it's not, we cannot throw out the baby with the bathwater. Because we cannot say now we are desperate, now that's it. Because we still have to do our work. And that's why even now we are dealing with a budget, supplementary budget. There are some who will cut, there are some who will say it's not workable because we are still having the power to oversight.
But you see, the optics that a layman like myself sees is that you will approve the increase of that lending ceiling or the borrowing ceiling.
Yeah.
But even if we seem to have money to finance this thing, we've borrowed it.
Yeah.
Where is the commensurate economic activity that will enable us to actually absorb the debt that we will then have increased?
By the way, debt, I wouldn't say debt is bad, Muga. Even you, I know you have a debt somewhere you're servicing.
No, it's not one.
Yeah.
Several.
Yeah. I think all of us, even myself, I have a debt somewhere. And I think the issue is never about borrowing. Because every country in this world, by the way, most of them borrow.
I don't have a problem
the
with
issue
that.
is the amount. But what are we seeing? Infrastructure. Are we not seeing it? I've just used Mombasa Road. Are we not seeing the infrastructure going on?
No,
serious.
In terms of where it's being funded from, and then
for sure,
where it's going.
Because when I talk about development in my constituency, I know we want to demonize government generally, but I would say, like when I came into my constituency, I would say even electricity connection was below 50%.
Yep.
Now we have gotten electricity
Gilgil
to
was
people
ignored.
70%. You know, I'm just saying that takes money. It's not free. I have a tarmac road. I think almost every constituency has a tarmac road going on. It is still money.
Yeah.
We are talking of this expressway. It's still money. We are talking of railway. It's still money.
Yeah.
And I think as a responsible government, you have to find ways of funding the infrastructure. But one point I would agree with you. It will have to come to a point where we live within our means. And I say that from the budgeting point. Let us have a smaller budget that is manageable. It's not wrong to have a 1 trillion or 2 trillion budget than to have a 3 trillion that will cause extraneous stress to our population.
You see why I'm pointing
that
fingers?
That one, I agree.
Why I'm pointing fingers at Parliament is this. If the role of oversight was actually done, you'd be absolutely right. This issue of borrowing wouldn't matter. We've raised it here ourselves and we had the view. This borrowing,
not the problem.
We don't have
it is not the issue.
No. It's not the issue.
Yeah.
That absence of oversight is what would guarantee we don't waste this money that we borrow.
True.
Okay? If we didn't waste it, it would be put into activities that would generate more money. So we would be fine. The problem is we are not fine.
Because of the lack of oversight.
Yes.
Because what I'm trying to understand you.
Because of how. This is it. So, and then Mohammed Ulia was here with us from 8 o'clock to 9.
Yeah.
And this conversation, we've had it before. So from the point of budgeting, there's somebody who is already thinking about how much money they're going to make in the next financial year.
I agree.
And there's somebody who already has identified a vendor of a project that they're going to run. So the borrowing that we are doing, you're borrowing 10 shillings for a project that you should be borrowing 3 bob. You're going to pay 10 bob for a 3 bob project. That is problem number 1.
Yes.
Problem number 2, in some cases, you're borrowing 10 bob for a 0 bob project.
Yes.
And we have seen them. We have seen projects that have been started.
And
they have not been completed at all. And yet we have borrowed. So those are the issues, and that's where the oversight role comes in.
I am in agreement, totally.
And we also agree with you when you say that we need to get to a point where we live within our means.
Yep.
And maybe that's where the people are coming in and saying, living within our means also means that we do not increase the size of our government. Live within our means.
Because as it is, it's already causing pressure on the knees of the economy.
No, I hear you totally. And I agree with the issue of the borrowing for bigger. And I'll give you an illustration. Yesterday, we met the Minister of Defense, and there was a refurbishment of a ship for Air Force. Oh, no. Kenya Navy, for the Navy. And it had been budgeted for somewhere else to cost, I think, 8 billion or something. To cost something...
To refurbish it.
They were buying a new one.
Crazy. To cost something crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the military repaired it using, I think, 50 million. I think we were in shock because they said we just did repairs and we painted. And the same thing that is happening to Nairobi. You know, we had stalled tracks that were budgeted to take a lot of money, and yet they were easily done by the military using very small resources. So my point, I agree with you. There are people who see this budget as a cash cow. And that's why I say the problem of this country is not the laws. It is not the laws, because we have criminalized the issue of stealing from the public. We have said we are fighting corruption. The president has even tabled, but in terms of actionables, what happens? Because we have picked it. Even this KEMSA thing came to Parliament. It was picked in Parliament. Some of these things have been whistleblowed by Parliament, but we are not the arresting authority. We are not. It will go to EACC, go to DCI, and that is where we lose it. Because now you're not able to tell DCI we want this report. And when it comes, and it doesn't come with the resource, like now, there are people who are tabled, I think in 2018 by the president or 2019. They have now been let off the hook. Investigations have gone on. People even forgot about it.
Insufficient evidence.
And it became insufficient. And I know I've seen a clause in the BBI on the timeliness manner of dealing with corruption cases. In fact, I think personally that judiciary should have the same way we fast track criminal issues. We make this a serious issue to be fast tracked. So that we see, when you see someone being jailed, a governor or two or someone who stole, then people will fear. Because our problem is not the money. It's not the borrowing, it's the stealing. And it is all over. I would not say national government only, even in the county government.
But you see where oversight comes in, huh? If I'm still on oversight.
Yes.
And I'm not, this is a dog with a bone. I'm not moving from it.
I see you.
You see me? Excellent. You see, why we bring in the issue of oversight is if you don't provide it, who will?
True.
You, as parliament, are the one arm of our system that actually has the mandate and the power to not just call out, but to even put you actually do have the power. You have the means.
I agree.
The law allows you to do that. But you
Let me tell you. And you know me, I'm honest. I'll tell you, the NYS scandal. And that's where the problem comes in. Because even when the names were listed, some were members of parliament. And I'll tell you, I agree parliament has failed this country. And I will say it again. We have not done what we should have done. Because you get the interferences are inside parliament. Some were named who are sitting members, who are chairmen of committees. So it means even that report going anywhere in that parliament is being fought from inside. And that is exactly where we go wrong. And if we were able to capture, like I was saying, and prosecute, and there are serious consequences for corruption, even members of parliament will fear, governors will fear, and someone will be seeing public shilling and runs away. But as long as it's business as usual, then it means people will still have safe havens in terms of. But I agree with your view of parliament failing.
You don't even call out your own colleagues whom you know. You don't even name them.
They're named. It's actually in the public domain. By the way, they're named. Parliament has a lot of even these committee reports that are churned out every day. Pick, pack, everywhere. Even that one for NYS. They were actually named, I think, by EACC. There was a whole list. It was actually tabled by president in parliament.
Yes. When does it go?
Then after that, it dies.
Sanitization. So parliament has just become the laundromat. Weka hapa, toka pande lengine, clean.
No, we know where people go for laundry.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
So right now, parliament is not working to the way it should be working. And you want to tell me, Mheshimiwa, that Canaan, after BBI, Parliament will be better with 600 members of Parliament. It will actually now.
By the way, it's not about the
people.
number. It's never about the number. I think it's about the people who are inside there doing their work.
So will the resolve, this is my question.
Yeah.
Because now you've talked about this as it is, Mheshimiwa, that, we've failed, we've not been able to do this. The BBI now will bring a reawakening that will then make it work. I really want to understand
the misconception of BBI will not solve all these problems, by the way. It will be unfortunate. We cannot lie to people that it will solve these problems. Some of these things are actually not about the law. Some are about personal drive and goodwill.
And values.
Because when you get there, when you're elected, you swear to an oath, to protect the people. And that is why we raise the issues, even when they're unpopular. I remember that time we were debating Finance Act and we were saying, you cannot raise the price of kerosene with 8 shillings. That was for me one of the biggest issues because it touches on the local mwananchi. So we will still do our work. And Bunge has tried. Of course, it has not performed like 100%, but who has? Even executive has not performed 100%. But I think there's still room for us to do better in terms of parliament, in our oversight. We are still doing it. And I say that because every day these issues come to the committees. And what members or what the public sees is the gallery or the plenary. But most of the work we do is actually
in the committees.
You'll get the Public Accounts Committee, you'll get the Public Investment Committee, the issues that have come to the fore that were faulty, like the KAA, people have whistleblowed even in Parliament. And I think we've done our bit. In terms of corruption, we have done a bit, but some have also partaken. And I say that because you cannot have 100%. Hata meno haitoshani. There are people who are still, naiko kwa mdomo moja. So there are still people who will get into the trap of corruption. It doesn't mean that now the whole institution is totally dead or totally bad.
Unfortunately, that is the conclusion
That's
we come
the thing.
to.
Yes.
Because we're judging you by outcome.
Yeah.
Mandate, power, you have. Outcome, dismal.
But, on defense of parliament, I will tell you even now, there are people being investigated, even in parliament, for CDF.
That happens all the time. In fact,
the outcome of investigations...
We even wonder why you people bother with it.
By the way, the outcomes of investigations are not in parliament. They are outside our precincts because it goes to the DCI. You have to prove beyond reasonable doubt. The issue of Bill of Rights comes in because you have to be heard. So it is a lengthy process. But have we done our bit? We do our bit. Then someone rolls the tire.
You don't do your bit fully, and I'll tell you how.
Yes.
When you're making the law, so for example, here we were talking about the issue of hate speech.
Yes.
All right. This law, as it's made in Parliament, then you've put in a clause there that says that you must prove. And then you put the threshold for the proof so high that this is actually
it's not
hate
possible.
speech.
It's not possible
and said
to prove
that there has
intent.
to be a complainant that this is hate speech. This was put in law by members of parliament, knowing full well the game they were playing, knowing full well what they were doing. When a member of parliament is convicted by a competent court in this republic, and then that member of parliament, of course, following due process, goes and appeals, but comes back to the house. But members of parliament will now be the ones who are cheering them. This member of parliament, welcoming.
Welcome
Come
back
on,
to
what
work.
message are you sending to the people?
I think, you cannot legislate bad manners. That's unfortunate because some of these things, I would say, is just bad manners. Even the corruption, the laws are there. But I think we have also forgotten even God in terms of we just steal and steal and steal more. But I agree with you in terms of you balkanize us. But I think any institution, even you, when CT has something, you'll still be with him. He's your colleague. But but I think it's unfortunate the laws are not tight enough.
Have you seen how I have been compared to a corrupt MP?
No. I just say it as a
Have you seen?
As a colleague.
Ukipata deal CT, I will not ostracize you as long as unione kitu.
But Eric, especially the issues of corruption.
Yeah.
If you remember, some members have even been put incarcerated for some time in terms of corruption issues, in terms of hate speech. We've seen crackdown being done. So even with the existing law the way it is possible to send a proper message.
It is not a crackdown, it's window dressing. Let me tell you.
What is that?
If we saw, and you mentioned it in passing here, people being jailed, the way people who steal chicken are jailed, okay? And people who are caught peeing in the public are jailed. If basic small infringements of the law, okay, and I'm calling them small, okay? If we saw that, jailed for sure, not kept overnight.
Yes, and then released.
That's not jailing, okay?
Not held in hospital.
A full scholarship where you go to committee.
And nobody's hearing you when you say you have a tummy ache and you cannot appear in
Exactly,
court that
and you are there for a year and we know you are there. Not you have a
and I think it has
representative
happened. We saw, is it Kakuo? We saw someone.
Imagine.
Yeah,
he was not a politician.
Incarcerated. He was a
not a
politician.
politician.
He was a
He only
politician.
vied and he didn't get
He was
elected.
a politician. So I think for me, Bunge has no prosecutory role. But if the judiciary worked properly and the other institutions, the message will be sent.
Which must stop.
Yes.
We are not judging you
Yes.
based on what other bodies or other arms of government are supposed to do.
But we are doing ours.
Are you? No. You are falling so far short of what you're supposed to do. You see, it's not you, Mheshimiwa.
No, I
Martha
understand.
Wangari.
It's parliament.
It is parliament.
We take the fall.
Unfortunately, when you hang out with people who are thieves, you can't blame us for calling you.
Mushera with Mukondo.
Yes.
The perfume falls
But
on
the
you.
Constitution says you have to prove beyond reasonable
Reasonable
doubt. That is actually why we are having issues, even with terrorism in this country, because they will go and get a bond. Then they will join the next Al-Shabaab because they are out and the Constitution says so.
Yeah.
And you have to be heard and they say, I've not been proven to be a terrorist. So that process still has to go because it's a right for
And
anyone.
I think it is because we don't want a situation where people who are innocent are being
Are also witch hunted,
Yes,
you know?
exactly.
We don't want
We
that.
don't.
Yeah.
But you think it actually stops people who have the means and the power from incarcerating if they want to? They will.
Against the law.
Oh,
Mheshimiwa Martha Wangari.
I think for sure our constitution and our Bill of Rights is quite elaborate. And in this BBI, they have actually touched it in terms of putting the responsibilities so that you don't just get the rights, you get the responsibilities, even for national unity. But you know what I was saying, Eric? It's like trying to legislate bad manners, because some of these things, like hate speech, insightful talks, are basically bad manners because you want to ignite fire for what? So I think some of these things, and it's the unfortunate bit, is that the laws are there. It's just about implementing it.
Mheshimiwa, it was your first time on the show.
Yes.
And we have enjoyed your company
Thank
so
you.
much. We hope
I've
to
really
have you
enjoyed the
again
show.
here.
I didn't even know 1 hour is gone.
Can you imagine?
1 hour
Time
is
flies
such
when
a
you're
short
Yeah,
having
it
fun.
goes very quickly.
So,
Clearly.
a message not only to the people of Gilgil
Yes.
constituency, but to the people of Kenya, especially with regards to BBI. Why yes?
First of all, one message I would want to stick with, and I say that knowing very well I come from the Rift Valley, we have a volatile piece in that area, and I want to give them an illustration I gave in the morning on KTN. When Honorable Mudavadi lost the mother, no top echelon didn't visit. The president was there, the deputy president was there, the former prime minister was there. At the end of the day, even us, when we come to you, Yokieleweke, I don't know your tanga, when you go to parliament, we'll sit together and we'll eat together. So I want to appeal that regardless of whatever happens, Kenya is still one. We still need each other. You need your neighbor. So it's good to maintain the peace. On the BBI, I think there are many issues why we need to pass it. One reason I would say is the issue of representation for me. And I said everyone has something they want in that BBI, and that's why it will get attraction from every side. The Ward Development Fund is not a bad idea. Of course, it will need an operationalization law like we have for CDF, so that, you know, like in my CDF, I have said 100 million. I know 35 million goes to bursaries, 35% outright. The rest will go to admin and a few here and there. Then development will take, say, 50% or 45%. So it has to have a law that will operationalize it. That way, then we'll know what is prioritized even at the count. But this now will come after this one is law. The other one is the issue of course, the gender parity. We have come a long way. Normally people say we are many women in parliament, but I tell them out of 290 we are only 23. We are not even, out of the 290 constituencies, we are not even 10%. But of course, because of women rep, and it makes us look many. But I want to say here, as a woman, I've passed a bill in parliament. Even if all the women voted for it, it will still not pass. We'll still need the men. So we still are a long way to go. But it's progress. And I think BBI addresses that in the Senate in terms of having 50%. And it also gives an exit clause of 3 elections that it closes. After that, we should have gotten enough women who have run and who are elected.
And elect women directly.
Yes, elected. And they elect them directly, whether from MCA to the governor level. There are many issues that we are addressed in the BBI. The issue of the resources, the 35, I think it's a good idea. Of course, people will say corruption, we have not seen what it has done. And I say, even at the national level, there's corruption. Let us not demonize this model of devolution that is bringing services closer to the people. The more the resources, the closer it gets. A dispensary here and there will get equipped, will get a nurse. And I think the things that matter to Kenyans mostly is everyday survival and health. If you are able to address the issue of health, we will save Kenyans a lot of trouble. Because like we said earlier, the issue of cancer, you'll see, it makes a family destitute, first of all, and then the person still dies, and you get even bodies detained in hospitals. So I think if we get the diagnostic centers closer to the people, equip the hospitals, it will make more sense. So let us try the 35%, and I know it will make a difference.
Asante sana. Martha Wangari is the MP for Gilgil. We'll be having you soon again in the Situation Room. Thank you very much for tuning into the Situation Room today.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.